Every single one of us has the right to live in freedom and safety. But how can we live a life of dignity when we are constantly threatened by violence, natural disasters, and hunger? Let's learn about how we can put human rights in practice in today's challenging times. I'm Nicole Corrado, and this is Meet the Millennials. Our first guest teaches peace and conflict studies at Hiroshima University in Japan. She's also the co-founder and executive director of Peace Perspectives, a non-profit international organization advocating inclusive and lasting peace. Dr. Dalia Simaran, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nicole.
So Dr. Simaran, or Dalia, I get the sense that when we talk about human rights in the past few years, it's been increasingly challenging. But just because it's challenging doesn't mean we have to stop talking about it. I think it's even more reason that we need to talk about it. So I'd like to take advantage of your expertise. Can you tell us the state of human rights in the Philippines today?
I know it's a difficult topic, but as you said, we have to talk about it. And we are not doing well. And historically, our record has not been always good. The Human Freedom Index also shows the same pattern, that the Philippines is less free than before when it comes to personal, civil, and economic freedom and rights. And the rule of law and human rights are like two sides of the same coin. They are interrelated. So dignity and respect, our fundamental rights as human beings, can be easily safeguarded through the rule of law. And we are ranked also quite low, 91st out of 128 countries in the Rule of Law Index. And in the last 5 years, the Philippines is one of the countries that experienced the worst deterioration in the rule of law, alongside countries like Venezuela and Cambodia. And this is a global trend, unfortunately, and the Philippines is a part of this trend. I also want to mention that there's a correlation between the protection of human rights and the level of peacefulness in a country. All this taken together, what we can say is that we are not upholding human rights as we're supposed to, and we are also not safe and secure country to live in, generally and statistically speaking.
One of the comments we often hear is that you should only be worried about human rights if you're not a law-abiding citizen. In other words, ang human rights, ang concern lang dyan, yung mga pasaway, right? So ano ba ang value ng human rights, especially in a country that's always affected by disasters, by issues such as hunger? Why does human rights matter in this context?
I think by the virtue of being born, one has to care about human rights, right? So we all have the right to be treated with dignity and respect, whether you are pasaway or not. And let's also be reminded that human rights are for all, regardless of race, sex, ethnicity, language, all these other statuses. As human beings, we have a moral obligation to call out human rights violations against our fellow human beings. When there's erosion of human rights, whether we are law-abiding citizens or not, we can be potential targets of violations.
All right, Dalia, you know that I've been such a big fan of your work because you've done extensive field work in post-conflict societies like Kosovo, Cambodia, and East Timor. Anong impression nila sa Pilipinas, especially when it comes to human rights?
They have a positive view, about the Philippines when it comes to human rights. And something really struck me during a couple of interviews I've done back in 2015. They told me that at least in the Philippines, we are free to speak. We have freedom of expression and association. We have access to information, and we have a vibrant civil society that will speak for us whenever the government crosses the line. And I remember a women's rights activist in Timor-Leste telling me that they are really inspired by the progress of the Philippines in terms of advancing the political and economic rights of women. There was also a comment in Cambodia from someone who said that, in Cambodia, they need to start from scratch after the genocide, doing all this educational activities to increase the awareness of the people about their human rights. And as a side note, during the interview, he told me that, you are lucky you're from the Philippines. You don't have to do all this because you already have a strong human rights culture.
Right. Well, I think we can end on that inspiring note. Thank you so much, Dalia. I think what I learned from this interview is that the Philippines can actually be a leader in promoting human rights, not just in our country, but around the world. Thank you, Dalia.
Thanks for having me, Nicole.
When we return, we will talk about how human rights and food security go hand in hand. Stay tuned. Having access to nutritious food is a human right. Farmer and Agrea Philippines CEO Cherry Atellano is leading the fight against hunger through ethical and sustainable agribusiness. Welcome to Meet the Millennials, Cherry.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me.
Cherry, I'm sure you've heard the impression that human rights, it's such a fluffy concept. Nakakain ba yung human rights na yan? And when I think about this impression, naaalala kita because I think you are the best embodiment of the kind of work that people do to make sure that actually food as a human right is realized. Tell us about your work.
As I always share, farmers and fishers, the food producers are actually the poorest of the poor. It's a crime against humanity. And for the last 22 years of my life dedicated to this work, I really want to dignify them. I really want to restore respect to them, that it's okay to be a farmer. It's the best to be a fisherman. And because you're contributing in feeding people and for food, food is a basic need and food is a basic human right. And those people who are actually growing our food, we need to express to them what human rights is all about.
So actually my curiosity here is, it sounds so basic, right? We should have solved hunger already. But why is it so hard for us to solve this problem? And why are our farmers themselves going hungry?
So, it's been like centuries and centuries of problem in the agriculture sector. Even young people are not interested in going into agriculture because when you go to agriculture, it's like the last resort because it's a dirty job. You always need to be with the land, to be in the soil, to get dirty, to plant, wake up early. So it's not glamorous. For the longest time, a lot of unethical trading is happening in the sector where farmers usually are the ones having this hard labor of waking up every morning under the scorching heat of the sun, surviving climate change. But at the end of the day, they're always the one begging on how much their produce are actually being bought from them. They're at the mercy of traders. So it's something that we need to change.
So tell us, how can we change this?
Sourcing local, supporting our farmers is one approach. And then I'm an advocate of zero waste. So every food that's present on my plate, I always make sure I finish it because, it takes time for farmers to grow this food, and finishing our food on our plate is just a simple act of respecting their work. And third one, we really need to be more active in changing our trading system in the agriculture sector, wherein there's so much exploitation. Farmers are not paid well with all the effort that they do. And a lot of people are actually making money in the process.
But share with us, Cherry, what you learned from engaging with farmers.
The farmers are my best teachers. I never experienced being starved. I never being experienced treated unfairly every time I go to the farming communities. They teach me how to love life. They teach me how to connect to nature. They teach me how to be grounded. Being a farmer is grounding on literal sense, but also grounding on a figurative sense. On a literal sense, it's so nice to connect to our soil. The power of the soil is very important. It makes us humble as human beings. It makes us healthy. But more importantly, the farmers would always tell me that the moment you are not grounded to nature, to the soil, the moment it's easy for you to destroy nature. I learned that from the farmers. A lot of our farmers are actually taking care of the environment. It's because they feel that that's their best resource. Uh, the environment is their social security system. So it's really that empowering sense of learning that connection of human to nature, where human is actually very dependent from nature in terms of food, in terms of livelihood, is, simple values in life that actually I learned a lot from the farmers. So I always believe that they teach me not only to survive, but to thrive as a human being.
Thank you so much, Cherry. If you can give our viewers one final message, please share your key insight with us.
For me, I always believe that every time you eat, please remember the producers, our farmers. I always believe that Filipino farmers are world class. They should be treated well, they should be dignified, they should be respected, because if without them, we will starve. And now, Philippines is reaching 110 million people, and our farmers are aging. It's such a task to do, but the farmers are never failing us, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. The farmers give us food on our table. So let's not also fail them.
Wow, Cherry, thank you so much. I learned so much from this episode of Meet the Millennials. I learned that our right to food is connected to the rights of our farmers, and our human rights are connected to environmental rights. Thank you so much, Cherry, and thank you for watching Meet the Millennials. I'm Nicole Curato. I'll see you next time.
This episode of Meet the Millennials is presented to you by Sunmig Light. 100 calories lang, magaan sa tiyan.